The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
Welcome to Mannin Line today. We're open line through till 1 o'clock tomorrow, out and about with the students of Castle Rushen High School in Castletown, and a week tomorrow in St Ninians in Upper Douglas at the high school there. But today we're open line through till 1. If you've got anything you'd like to say regarding the Manx Care situation, it'd be interesting to get your definition of the word realistic. Apparently, we have to be realistic about what health services can be provided within the budget allocated, says the Health and Social Care Minister. That's Claire Christian, MHK. She's apologised for that miscommunication surrounding disruption to some patients' elective care. She told Manx Radio she stepped in to alter the changes that Manx Care was planning to make, despite the health body supposedly being arm's length in government. She said she had to intervene because the operational decisions would have had huge political and public impact. Get that? Political impact. Something is going on somewhere, isn't it? Something is definitely happening. There are obviously some conversations going on behind closed doors that we're not privy to, but there's obviously tension between the arm's length body, i.e. Manx Care, and the DHSC. We're sitting on something here which makes us richer, and it's ours. If we don't jump on our own gas, we will bankrupt the island on Duff turbines and be robbed blind for it. There are wars over what we have, so why is our government not on it? Drill for our own energy and make our own wealth. This is obviously talking about Kroger Gas and the gas field sitting off Mackle. It's a bit rich of the current administration to be advertising around the planet for people to come here and live with a sales pitch of free healthcare, only to tell the native population not to expect to be treated. Also, it seems that we have a fully operational policy. All we can now say is if they wish to do so with all the benefits included. We wonder why Manx Care is suffering. It's a refugee policy, says 302. Do you be a bit more specific about what you mean? The staff at the Western Amenity Site are very helpful, very friendly. They deserve some praise, says Alan, and I'm happy to pass that on to all the good people at St John's at the Western Amenity Site. To the phones now. Wilf's first with us. Hi, Wilf.
Hi. It's nothing really to do with what you were talking about, but I have to apologise to the people of Ramsey for not being at commissioners' meetings. But I'm stuck in here, so I can't do anything about it. And I've missed the last three. And the last three were very important because they were rates, and I believe the rates have gone up. And that's something I've always fought against. So I can't say anything about that because I haven't read any of that. Plus the fact it's all in private anyway. All I can say is a little bird has told me, even in here, plus I flew in through the window, that we've got one more, at least, electric vehicle, which I've always been dead against. Anyway, put that to one side.
Well, 3% they're going up by, 3% apparently.
Well, I heard, again, must have been a little bird that flew in here, that the post office was getting rid of a few. But I'm not sure about that.
Oh.
They gathered them up and they were using them and liked them and all the rest of it. But they've now decided to get rid of a few. But I don't know. That might be just hearsay. I don't know. Might be a lot of nonsense. But the other thing was, there's no way, because I can see it coming, there's no way I would have windmills in Ramsey Bay. There's only one way, and I'm at the age it doesn't matter, because I've had my time, out in that bay and all the rest of it. And there's only one way, and it has to be, if we've got to look at these things, we got to have free electric. And that's the only way that I would vote for it. Otherwise, dead no.
Wilf, how are you keeping? When are you likely to be out of Nobles?
Nobody said anything. I think they're going to put bars on the windows.
Okay.
to keep me in, I think. I don't know, do they like me or they hate me or what?
Well, they certainly couldn't miss you.
Well, no, they're sort of thinking about, them 3 Irish fellows that go on the telly.
Yes.
On that island. Well, they're quoting me as the old fellow in the corner.
Are you feeling better, Wilf? That's the important thing.
I feel all right. I feel like I could crawl out on my hands and knees, but they won't let me.
Yeah, but you don't have to mess around with pneumonia, Wilf. It can sneak up around the back.
Well, I don't know where I come from. Which direction it got me, but it got me somehow.
Okay. So tell me, are the commissioners, are they keeping you informed with what's happening at Ramsey Commissioners?
Oh, that was another thing. No, not a thing. Not a word. Not a get well, Wolf, and come back and pester us.
They haven't sent you a get well card?
Nothing.
Oh, Wilf.
I don't exist.
Oh, I think they know you do.
Well, they certainly do. They know they do. But as for saying get well or anything like that, they're hoping the longer I'm in here, the better. The more deal they can do. But they can keep my voice out of it. You see, I've been a long time there. I don't know how long I've been there. I don't know. I haven't reckoned it up. Somebody said 27 years, but I don't think it's that long. But it's getting up that way. And I've always been my own man sort of thing, and they don't like it. Most of them don't like it.
All right. Well, the public obviously do, because that's why you keep getting back in.
Well, yeah, but it's a new thing now, you see. So I'll be standing again in April if I'm still standing.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll try.
All right, well, listen, we wish you well. You keep on getting better and get out soon.
Okay, thank you, Andy.
Good to hear from you. Thanks for that. We wish you. You want to send Wilf a get well card? I'm sure they do. If you send it to Wilf Young at Nobles Hospital, I'm sure they'd pass it on to him. And hopefully he's out soon. And remember, there will be other people who will stand, by the way, but nominations haven't closed yet. So, in Ramsey, residents in a 3-bed house are going to pay 38p more per week. Ramsey commissioners say that due to costs beyond their control, the rates are going up 3%. And they'll be set at 510 pence in the pound, which represents an approximate rise of 38p per week for the 3-bed property. Commissioners say they're budgeting for rises at the energy from waste plant, a contribution to the northern swimming pool, and investing in infrastructure in the town. And maybe sending Wilf a get well card. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? Those wind turbines planned for Ramsey and Mackle are going to look hideous. Also, what will the tourists on the MER see? Certainly not a beautiful view anymore. I thought we wanted more visitors. Well, that's a point, 068. And here we are. Whenever we talk about this, we always talk about what we think of them. What do you think the paying public from across and around the world will think if they go on the railway, the electric railway, from Laxey to Ramsey, and out of the right-hand side if you're heading to Ramsey, or left-hand side if you're heading back to Laxey, they will see these enormous things. Now, it may be, a while ago, Michelle Haywood said she thought that if people saw a wind turbine, they'd see and they'd recognise a community that's embracing the future. Is that what you think people will see? If they've been used to seeing the sea. I mean, at the moment you can see that Morecambe Bay wind farm, the Walney wind farm, in the distance, whizzing around, so you can see them, and certainly if you head to Liverpool, you can see that there are miles and miles of the darn things, but we've never had them on our doorstep, and they're 1,000 feet high, 1,000 feet high. So we need to lower our expectations and be realistic with healthcare. Maybe the government should lower its cash gifts to the £1 million pointless promenade wall, to the developers who pay expensive houses and then let them out and keep the profit. Cash to the Manx Development Corporation, unregulated, unchecked, says Fran. Cash galore, consultants, architects, that 2.3 million so far for the Newcastle Russian High School. It's inept, it's out of control, says Francesca. And Pauline dropped a note in and said, if surgeons and consultants as well as nurses and anaesthetists are being employed by Manxcare and are therefore on a salary, why were services being cancelled? What were all these salaried staff going to do for 2 months had the additional funding not been given? What are the additional costs? Is it bank staff, locum staff fees? I'm struggling to understand, says 423, the reasoning behind the on-island cancellation of surgeries and outpatient appointments. If we have salaried staff at the hospital, where's the problem? And Joe's on now. Hi, Joe.
Hello there, Andy. How are you doing?
Very well. What's on your mind?
I just wondered if the people that are going across each week for treatment at Liverpool and elsewhere, do they contribute anything to the transport costs?
Only, I think sometimes if the people go with them, they have to pay part cost, but no, obviously the patients don't pay anything because it's patient transfer.
Yes, it's just that it's a big expense, I would think.
Well,
I would have thought in this day and age they could have contributed something themselves.
Well, we've always paid it in the past, and this is the whole thing, is that there will be some people who could pay it no problem, but a lot of people can't, and particularly if you're taking children across and people have to take time off work and what have you, then it's been one of those things that the public purse is always taken care of, and it's reassuring for the people. The last thing you want to worry about if you're going for perhaps urgent treatment is money, Joe, surely.
Yes, I could understand it for people, working class people that are working, but there must be people who are retired that are with means. I'm sure they could have a means test, and anybody that could afford to pay, not all of it, just a contribution, it's a big expense.
How do you think that would go down politically, though, Joe? Can you imagine a politician who stood on that at the election and said, we're going to means test patient transfer?
Well, it's one of those things, I'm just putting it my way forward, and if I were to go across, I wouldn't mind contributing a little bit towards the fare.
Right.
It would save the National Health a lot of money per year. That's all I'm getting at, really.
It's interesting, and the fact is that we're in tough times, Joe. They keep on telling us, and we all know we're in tough times. But
I know that.
That's something that's never been thought of before. And, as I say, it will be a brave politician who would say it, but, just as a matter then, how much would you be prepared to throw into the pot? £50, £100?
50 quid, possibly, yes. Say a third of the cost of going across.
Right. Okay, well, no, that's a suggestion. Thanks for it, Joe. Good to hear from you.
Yeah. Right, whilst I'm on about this,
yeah.
Do any of the MHKs listen to Mannin Line?
It's fair to say they do, Joe, yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, I would never hear anybody coming back on from them to say anything,
Oh, they do.
Right.
Yeah, I was talking to one on Saturday who did. Okay. All right. Thanks, Joe.
Okay, bye.
Good to hear from you, and hello to all our elected representatives who are listening today. Viv, hello, Viv.
Hello, Andy. You were talking about the trams and the view out to the sea.
Yeah.
Well, the rumour has been going all last year here in Ramsey that they're going to stop the trams going from Laxey to Ramsey. They're going to turn it into a cycle track.
Yeah, that was a suggestion, but I think they came up with one of their consultant reports and found out it was going to cost a fortune to change. So they're not going to do it. I mean, quite why you would want to turn it into a cycle path. I don't know how many people would cycle on it all the way and for how much of the year and what impact it would have. I mean, it's the electric railway. The railway goes Laxey to Ramsey, has for years.
I know all about it. I live just above it in Ramsey, and it's lovely to hear the whistle going when they're coming in and when they're going out and all the rest of it. But it's just... there are people that have these mad ideas that are going to bring visitors here. Leave it alone. The visitors will come.
It's fair to say, Vivian, there are, and I'm not saying who they are, and I'm not saying how many of them there are, but there are people within government who don't like the electric railway. They think it's a cost. They think they think it costs too much and it doesn't bring enough in, and they don't want it. They want it out of the way, and then they will save that money. Now, what happens afterwards, of course, is anybody else's business. But
exactly.
It's worth noting that there are enemies of the electric railway within government.
Well, there's enemies in government of the train, of the half trams, of anything that's heritage. And don't they realise that heritage is very much part of this island? Always has been, all my life.
So what would you say to those people then who think, that heritage, that you can do so much with heritage, but you don't have to spend as much as we spend on it?
I don't think I dare say my piece on the radio. I'll get banned.
Well, clean it up then for me. Just refine it a bit for me.
I just think they don't know what they're talking about. They don't appreciate the Isle of Man, and they don't appreciate heritage. I was brought up on heritage. I used to go to the Antiquarian Society when I was a youngster with friends that went to it, and I learned an awful lot that way. And all sorts of things, Manx plays, all sorts of things. They taught you so much about this island, and that's what's missing today. Okay,
appreciate it. Thanks, Vivian.
Okay, bye.
Good to hear from you. That was clean anyway, wasn't it? 24 minutes past 12. There are some people who know the price of everything, don't they? The cost of everything. But they don't quite understand the benefits. It's worth pondering, of course. Within government, people will fight for their own department. So if the trains aren't your department and they cost a fortune, they cost money. I mean, we lose money on every passenger that pays for a ticket. I say lose money, it costs money. But the amount of money that's brought in by those passengers and the people who come and use the railways is spent elsewhere on the Isle of Man, let alone the facility that it gives people who live on the Isle of Man just to go. If you like old railways, you like heritage railways, and you like a different way of travel, that's the benefit for us. But it is a unique selling point, a USP. Nowhere, absolutely nowhere around the world has the combination of heritage railways that we have on the Isle of Man, even with the halfway horse tram. So is it worth it? Bearing in mind that we are short of money. Any thoughts about what Joe was saying about personal contributions to patient transfer? Do you think, if you can, maybe they should offer it for charity, or maybe they should offer it as a personal donation, If you want to put some money towards your patient transfer, then you can, and it will go into a fund. Any thoughts, any ideas? By all means, get in touch. Here's Robert now. Hi, Robert.
Hi, I was just thinking about the fact that I broke my leg, and if we could change tracks for a second and talk about Manx care, would that be okay?
Talk about whatever you want, Robert.
All right. Well, basically, the way I see it is that they're doing all of these battering of Claire Christian, all the rest of it, just to highlight that. Well, you could always go private. It's stick in £2,000 and go. Well, obviously, that's just not acceptable for most people on the island. So effectively, they're just feathering their own nest. Do you get what I'm saying?
So,
they're just fortifying themselves. They're just saying, well, you could always go alternative. We're pushing it out to the private sector. And you can say, well, you could always go there. And at the end of the day, they're just saying that they're putting down the turrets now, to be honest with you, about where they're at. So they're fortifying themselves, saying, well, actually, this is the reality of it. If you don't like it, you can just boat in the morning.
Well, it's the thing is, it's obvious we're in a bit of a pickle where this is concerned, because there's not enough money for Manx Care or what Manx Care want to provide. And obviously,
they're too obsessed about it.
Sorry, do I think?
Do you think they're too obsessed about it?
Well, the bills have got to be paid, Robert. I mean, you know, eventually somebody has to pay for something.
Yeah. Yeah, you've got a point, but I mean, I just think that, you know, they're putting down the fortifications now. Say, look, they've got private care and all the rest of it. So you can always go there if you want to. Well, you know, it's just not acceptable for most people. So effectively, all they're doing is feathering their own nest.
Okay, all right, appreciate it.
Say.
Thanks for that.
All right, thanks a lot. Bye.
Take care. 28 minutes past 12. Well, the point about private healthcare is, there is no private ward at the hospital. So at the moment, the insurance companies, and lots of people have private healthcare and facilities as part of a salary package, particularly up and down Athol Street and Victoria Street. But at the moment, if you want to get treated privately, you have to go across the Spire Hospital in the Wirral. I think it's almost Manx. There are so many Manx people going there. What do you think about it? A note in from John, who just said, having gone through treatment for prostate cancer 10 years ago and having a number of close family members who have had similar diagnoses, I pressed my son, who's in his early 50s, to request his local GP for a simple blood test. I would stress that I had no symptoms, never had to get up at night before having my surgery. The local GP asked my son if he, quote, got up at night, i.e. the midnight pee. He said no. Her response, no need to bother then. He did obtain the necessary blood test slip, but only after a lot of pressure. Clearly, at least some of our local GPs need training in this area, and I wonder if any other listeners have had similar experiences. Have you had to struggle to get a prostate cancer test, a PSA test? Or are they still being given out quite readily? Prostate cancer is a big killer amongst men. Thank you also to Yvonne, dropped me a note in just to say, with the stuff about Manx Care, is it only a matter of time, and we've talked about this in the past, is it only a matter of time before some bright spark says, let's charge for parking at the hospitals? Surely, says Yvonne, we can't have another app. Well, they've always said that there won't be any charging at Nobles Hospital. But bearing in mind the situation as it is now, we have to be, quote, realistic about what we want from Manx Care. Do you think if they suddenly realised that they could, you know, make couple of £100,000 a year from paying for parking at Nobles Hospital, that might cross somebody's table? It might come out of the in tray onto the action tray. And how would you feel about that? What would your thoughts be if you had to go to Nobles Hospital, maybe for treatment, maybe for a blood test, maybe for a PSA antigen test for prostate cancer, or perhaps just to visit a relative, and you had to pay like they do in the UK, came in 20-odd years ago in the UK, you have to pay. What would your thoughts be? And if any politician is, at the moment, milling that around, pushing it from the in tray to the action tray, I wonder how you'd sell that to the public. And Julian's with us. Hello, Julian.
Hi, Andy. How you doing?
Very well today. I'm a bit disappointed in the weather, but it's going to get better later in the week.
Oh, yeah. I'm going to talk about the health service in a minute.
Yeah.
And by the way, if you wanted to sell private health to the island, well, the way to do that is to massively cut back on the national insurance contributions. If everyone had to pay massively less on their taxes, they could afford to do it then, couldn't they? Just quickly, a news article this morning caught my attention. And it stated that wind speeds on the island were lower than average last month and that the temperature was 0.4 degrees below the 30-year average. Now, considering we also had Storm Airwin on the 24th of January and the below-average winds, wouldn't that have been a difficult month for wind power during our coldest months?
Well, they always say it swings and roundabouts, don't they?
Well, yes, but that's exactly my point. The SODAR wind detector that was up at Erie Staine was only up there for 1 year, despite the fact that the industry standard is to read for 2 years. So won't that make the load factor calculation that's going to be put forward as the carrot for the planning authority in the next few months would have been significantly reduced if they used the usual 2-year protocol and would have picked up on our way below average January, and also the turbines would have been either switched off or even potentially damaged by that storm. I also noticed that a BBC News article a couple of days ago was titled, "Could the UK actually get colder with global warming?" citing a study that suggests that the Atlantic Ocean currents could stop. The acronym that they use is AMOC, or Atlantic Meridional Overturning Circulation, could collapse. By the way, with acronyms like AMOC, it reminds me of the Public Health Emergency of International Concern that they were using for the pandemic treaty, which would be pronounced fake. So we've got a fake international health concern and an AMOC, Atlantic Overturning Circulation.
And what does that stand for again? Atlantic?
Meridional, or the middle bit, overturning circulation.
Right.
But however, the IPCC states in their AR6 document that they have low to no confidence of that happening by the year 2100, and the actual research paper contains the word model or modelling 72 times in a few pages. So it's a modelling conjecture. Anyway, that's the weather report.
Right.
I'd just like to say about Manx Care, you remember some years ago the Jonathan Michaels 281-page report was put forward to Manx Care.
Yeah.
So if anyone would like to just get that and look at page 11 under the section titled New Workforce Model, and it states, and I'll quote it, "The answer is not as simple as hiring more staff. Increasing staff numbers only at the same level of demand would create unsustainable financial pressure, given that staff costs currently, and that was in 2019, make up around 65% of the costs within the island's health care institution. So 65% of the costs of Manx Care was staffing in 2019. It also says reduce unnecessary bureaucracy and enable more time to be spent delivering care. So if the portion of costs relating to healthcare was 65% of all the costs in 2019, what is it now? And, I repeat, Howard, what is the breakdown of staffing related to frontline staff all the way through to local back office staff, financial analysts, and this 408 new staff? If the Michaels report appears to have been completely ignored.
Interesting. I'll tell you what's interesting. If you look at Jonathan Michaels' Wikipedia page, it doesn't even mention what he did for the Isle of Man. It mentions absolutely everything else and nothing about the Isle of Man.
No. But if anybody wants to just put Jonathan Michaels' report, Isle of Man, download it and go to page 11 and look for the title that's on that page, New Workforce Model. Right. Because it seems to me his advice was not taken.
Okay, all right, appreciate it. Thanks, good to hear from you.
Thanks, Andy. Cheers.
Cheers, Julian. And David's on now with us. Hi, David.
Hi, Andy. Just quickly there, I just want to say to Wilt that's in the hospital and give praise to Ramsey Commissioners. I don't know whether they voted for it. They do live streaming of their meeting, their public section of their local authority meeting.
Right.
So you would think the clerk or some colleague would maybe lend them a laptop, because what we did years ago in the hospital, there's free internet, so he could pick up the meeting, at least the public section of that. He may not want to. He could, if he wanted to, I presume, come in on the private section as well. But all's not lost, Wilf. Technology does do things for people for the future. And I just wanted to flip quickly to Andy, to John, give you a little update on that. Yep. And thank Rob Hollister personally, because nobody in our local authorities actually submitted. We weren't even notified about it. I found about it a different way and went online, made my submission if I was John. I know John's circumstances back to front. But I just wonder how many government departments, or don't forget housing is in the DOI, did they put a submission in? 800, I think, submissions. Let's get some detail out now, what's going on, and let's get this solved.
And that's the point. We can have all the consultations in the world, and nothing. There's nothing like action. Something has to be done about this. And homelessness is not. Homelessness isn't trendy, David. It's not a sexy thing. Homelessness, you hope, is something that happens to somebody else. But really, how we treat people who are homeless defines the type of people that we are on the island, surely.
Yeah, and I wonder, could we go back a little bit regarding the guy that was sent back to prison because they couldn't find accommodation for him? So what are we doing with Retina Bay? What are we doing with some of the empty properties that must be in government ownership there? Why isn't somebody just doing a small research and saying, look, we've got houses here or there, they can have a temporary solution?
Okay, I just want to ask you something, not as a commissioner, but just somebody who knows their way around the rules for local authorities. What do you do about overhanging hedges?
You can several things you can do. You can actually go to the neighbour and just say, look, your hedge is overhanging. It all depends whether it's in the garden or it's on the pavement.
Yeah, let's say on the pavement then.
That's a lot quicker. You can go to the local authority and say, this is blocking public right of way, which it is. You could get the local authority involved. You could get the DOI involved, but it is really slow with them. And we have powers to serve notice. We actually approved a genetic thing in Onken a couple of months ago where if somebody doesn't do something in Onken, and it could be one close, he's going to get prosecuted. And then we would do the work, and he would then have to, or he or she would have to fund the expense.
Right. Okay. Thanks for that, David. Good to hear from you. Cheers. Now 21 minutes before 1. That's a message came in from Terry and Ellen, who said there are hedges along their street, and I won't say where it's in the north anyway, but there are hedges along their street that are really hanging over the pavement, and surely something can be done, and preferably about now, because if you cut the hedges back now, then before the spring, when the spring arrives, then the hedge is going to regenerate. Surely that's the way to do it. But it's just one of those things that, gets on people's nerves. And if you've got an overhanging hedge, then get the trimmer out. Betty, hello now. Hello, Betty.
Oh, hi. I just want to answer your question about the parking at Nobles.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a dreadful idea. It's very, very cruel. People visiting relatives who are sick or even dying, the thought of asking them to pay for it is awful. And the other thing is, those people who go for appointments, their appointments might take much longer, they might be delayed, they could be waiting there for hours and have to pay a lot of money. It's a terrible idea, I think.
Well, it's one that's caught on here, there and everywhere, certainly in England. And, bearing in mind that we do tend to import some English civil servants every now and again, they may just say, they've done it at the airport, haven't they? There's an app now when you go to the airport, and we have no idea how much money we're making out of it or the other people are making out of it. But it's just one of those things. And I know it's been thought of within Manx Care about charging for Nobles Hospital parking, but you reckon a bad idea?
I think it's a terrible idea, a mean and cruel idea. And I've always thought the same when it was applied in England years ago. I think it's terrible.
Okay, Betty, good to hear from you. Thanks for being with us.
Okay, take care. Bye.
19 minutes before 1. Well, let's just say Noble's Hospital. If you say 100 people, and more, it's more than 100, but if 100 people a day use Noble's Hospital car park, and you charge them £3, so you're generating £300 a day. That's £2,100 per week. That's over £100,000. Somewhere, somebody, some bright spark will be saying, well, £3 isn't a lot. Is it the money or is it the principle? Because obviously £100,000 will be extremely useful to Manx Care or whoever took it over, or whichever app company took a slice of that. What do you think? Would that affect the ambience of Noble's Hospital? Because at the moment, if you're visiting somebody or you're going there for an appointment, then you can pull up. If you get a space, you get a space. If not, you go across the road to Vagabonds, stroll in, there we are. It's easier not to have to pay. Somebody somewhere will be thinking about that. I've worked in healthcare on the Isle of Man for over 40 years. I have never known it as bad as this, says Texter 659 on WhatsApp. Most people were being realistic when we didn't believe that a backdated 8% pay award to doctors could be made without penalising certain health services. That's a patronising comment from the MHK, says Julian. Manx Care shouldn't be paying for extra staff and equipment needed for road racing events. The funds for organising the TT and similar events should be used not for our healthcare budget. Any visitors or riders who need medical help should have to use their own insurance. People might say the extra money benefits the Isle of Man, but it doesn't go into our healthcare budget. We can debate all day, says John in Ramsey, about what the wind farm would hear is saying, but Friday's Mannin Line was a testament to what the young generation, the generation of the future, believes in and wants. We must listen to them and respect their opinions. It is their future. It is, John. They're going to be paying for it. And they were, it has to be said, by and large, the majority were for wind farms. They thought it was a good idea. What was very telling was nobody rode a bicycle. Nobody rode a bicycle. It's also fair to say that the luxurious bike shed at Ramsey Grammar School is somewhat underused. So if active travel is to be part of our future, do you remember when lots of people used to cycle to school? It doesn't really happen nowadays. This is what Claire Christian had to say. Lots of people have been saying they didn't catch it. What was she actually saying about being realistic? Health and Social Care Minister says we have to be realistic about what healthcare services can be provided with the budget allocated. She said she had to intervene because the operational decisions that Manx Care were going to make would have had huge political and public impact. This is Health and Social Care Minister Claire Christian, MHK.
The piece of work that the Chief Minister started, aligning the mandate with the operational plan and the budget, is the piece of work that I'm working on now. And it's being honest and transparent about what we can actually provide within that budget. We need to be really clear there isn't enough money, but at the same time we do need to, and we have been doing that, we've been deep diving over the last 8 weeks with these 2 specialists that we've brought in. So yes, we can make efficiencies, but at the same time, they're not going to happen quickly. I think that's what the conversation is now it needs to move on to. This is what we can afford. And that's going to be, some of those answers are going to be really tough because there's going to be some decisions. Inflation's obviously raised at a great rate. Drug prices have gone up.
And of course, what we also know is that there is a growing demand for health services. First of all, people are living longer, so you're kind of fighting a very uphill battle here.
The light at the end of the tunnel for me is going back to what, in essence, as an MHK, as a constituency MHK, what have been the issues on the ground? And those issues on the ground have been getting a GP appointment, getting a dentist appointment, and me coming into this role, this is going to be when we do start to talk more about what's in the mandate and what's in the operational plan. I have indicated prior that I want to see more investment in those areas, and that for me, that's really important. And I always kind of just explain this in the sense that community care is really important. Being able to get that appointment is really important, and again, it improves people's quality of life. And that's the island plan. We absolutely want that.
That's the Minister, Claire Christian. Oh, would you wish Wilf? Give him our best wishes. Hope he gets better soon from all his Manx Radio listeners. Says Texter 381. I'm sure you're speaking on behalf of everybody. Get well soon, Wilf. I've been a bit down about this government over the past 20 years or so. It's clear to me over the past 2 years also the future is bright, but certainly not here in Britain and with my children, after my family being located here for hundreds of years, says Paul. 3% rate rise in Ramsey, what is that going towards? Says 762. Is it going on wages? Well, no, they got lots of things to pay for. I read some out earlier on. Wilf is right. That's why the commissioners have sections for the public and sections held in private, because of confidentiality. But some members of other commissioners don't do confidentiality, says Robin. Yes, you can. They do live stream some of their public bits. Manx Care shouldn't be paying for the extra staff and equipment for road racing events, says that correspondent. And I don't like that idea of having to contribute to patient transfer. Well, Joe was just saying it's an idea. What if it were voluntary? Would you do it? I mean, would you stump up £50 to go, or do you think you've paid enough for it? There are certain things that we have never had to do in the past that we have to do now. Well, particularly what's going to happen regarding car parking in Douglas. If that new big car park is built, car parking, well, maybe the time of free car parking may be the end. Maybe drivers, car users, vehicle users will be taxed even more. Any thoughts on this? Tomorrow, Castle Rushen High School. Now, we've been following the proposed Castle Rushen High School for several years now, and we've had additional information this week regarding the cost of the development so far. Bearing in mind, they haven't turned the sod. They've not put a spade in the ground. Responding to a Freedom of Information request from Manx Radio, Department of Education, Sport and Culture has provided the total amount spent each year on the plans since 2017-2018, the financial year up to now, on feasibility studies, pre- and post-contracts, design consultancy fees, £2,035,369.22p. And nothing started yet.
I began to struggle with the stairs, but I didn't want to leave our family home. So my daughter told me about Acorn Stair Lifts and their new showroom in Douglas. I was able to try the stair lifts and find the right one for me and the home I love. They were so friendly. The whole process was hassle-free, and they offered the whole package from installation to servicing. Choose the island's first choice for stair lifts. Acorn Stair Lifts, South Quay, Douglas.
Call Acorn Stair Lifts now on 672 414 or call into our Douglas showroom.
Well, today I'm going to talk about the finest bathrooms in town. Hello, cheeky monkey.
I hope you're going to recommend Paysetter.
Of course.
Wow, it's where all the cool cats go.
Yes, smart cats like you choose Paysetter for a wide range of stylish designs and superb expert advice.
Squawk! Paysetter! Paysetter!
That's right, Polly. The magic starts when you visit Paysetter Tile and Bathroom Studio, Harris Terrace, Douglas, or search online for Paysetter Douglas.
Would you consider leaving a gift in your will to Hospice Isle of Man? As a charity, we need to raise millions every year just to continue providing our services. Your support means that we can give our care to all those who need it, when they need it, completely free of charge. If you're considering making a will or adding a hospice donation to your will, please give us a call to find out more on 672222. Every penny raised makes a huge difference to every individual and family who needs us. Thank you.
On the 4th of March, the House of Keys will choose 4 people to become members of the Legislative Council. Prior to that vote, Agenda will be speaking with all the candidates so you can find out more about the people that want to become national politicians, voting in Tynwald on policy and finance and playing a significant role in shaping the laws of our island. We hear this week from dyslexia campaigner Julia Bell, who is hoping to grab one of the LegCo seats. That's Agenda this evening at 5:30 on Manx Radio with me, Phil Gaughan. LegCo can have a big impact on your life, so it's well worth a listen to tonight's Agenda.
The Mannin Line with Andy Wint.
A note in from Debbie, who just said, I was really happy to listen to Mannin Line live from Ramsey Grammar School last week, especially when the young lady said that there was an acknowledgement of the Holocaust Memorial last week, and she herself had been reading at one as well. Thank you, Helen. Good to hear from you. And Beastie's on now. Hi, Beastie.
Hello. I just caught the tail end of Wilf earlier on talking about when he was first elected.
Yes.
Well, I probably have a little better memory than Wilf, and I can tell you all about it because he was elected probably 2001, and that was as a result of all the hard work done by an organisation called RAID, Ramsey Against Insensitive Development. We were trying successfully, as it turned out, to stop the damming of the Sobey River, and there was a whole gang of us and hundreds of people in Ramsey supporting, and what we did, we thought we were going to get nowhere unless we get some of our members on Ramsey commissioners, and we were successful in getting not only Wilf, but Sylvia and Brian Beattie, Stan Skinner, Joan Comish was not allowed, but she would have got in, Val Evans, I think that was about it, and of course they overturned the scheme. But we all pulled together to get everybody elected, which the whole town was against this war for development, so they did get in. But the interesting thing for me was that at that time I was probably the only one in the group that was computer literate. I have since pulled the plug because I didn't like the way social media was going, and I thought if I'm in it I won't be able to see what's happening, so I decided to pull all the plugs, and I'm outside it and I'm watching it, and it's just awful. So I did all the posters and newsletters and things like that, and you might be interested in 2 of the posters we did for Wilf, which I thought were hilarious. And one was, you know what Wilf looks like, and most people will do. We did a poster that looked like the Wild West cowboy, and at the top it said wanted, and then there's this big photo of Wilf, rough looking as he is, and then of course underneath as a Ramsey commissioner. And the other one was Wilf is quite notorious for not exactly putting his hand in his pocket, so another one of the posters was vote Wilf for Ramsey commissioner. Would this man waste your money?
My word.
So that was 2001, and
yes, I remember. I mean, what were they called? Dean and Dybel, weren't they? The company.
Dean and Dybel. I know you were watching from the sidelines. I know you were. Yeah.
Oh,
Dean and Dybel. It certainly was.
The Mannin Line was alight with Dean and Dybel and what was going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think the people from Dean and Dybel understood what they were getting into, did they?
They underestimated the power of the people of Ramsey. When they think something stinks, they will put a stop to it. And they are still doing that to this day.
OK, we wish you well, Beastie. You got plenty of pound notes. That's the important thing.
I've got hundreds of pound, well, not hundreds. I've got quite a lot of pound notes. Don't know where am I going to get them from when Lloyd's close? Got to keep using the pound notes. And love to Wilf and get better soon.
I'm sure he will. Thanks, Beastie. Good to hear from you.
Bye.
All right, then let's get to Eddie's with us now. Hi, Eddie.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, good, thanks. We're nearly out of time, so you're going to have to be quick.
Well, I'll try as quick as I can. I listened to a little bit of your programme on Thursday at Ramsey Grammar.
Yeah.
But can I point out that sixth formers are the future, like you said.
Yeah.
But before they become really good future people, they need experience. Life teaches them a lot of things. Very recently, you had you put a question to them actually about what do they think of wind farms.
Yeah.
And it really annoys me when you do that. I'm sorry about that, but these people don't know anything about wind farms, and one of the reasons for that is they don't teach them anything at school about wind farms and turbines. But we had a guy here, Paul Burnett, who was refused by government to go around the schools and teach them a few things. I mean, I come across some sixth formers myself recently in the last couple of years since I've been finding out about things, and they ask me, and I tell them just half a dozen of the 30 things which I have found out against them.
Okay.
And they're shocked. All of a sudden, they say, "Oh, I didn't know that."
Okay.
"Oh, I didn't know that."
Got to go, Eddie. Listen, we're out of time, Eddie. We appreciate it. Thanks for that. Do I ask them tomorrow? Live from Castle Rushen High School tomorrow, and back with an open line on Wednesday. Thanks to Chris on the phones today.
WINT.